Yo people, welcome back to Ron's Tech Hub, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to install Linux Mint on the same PC I've been using, but again this will work for any Windows PC that you have once it has some decent specs. So if you're someone moving away from Windows 10 or Windows 11, this is a perfect operating system for you. If you want to see how to make your USB drive bootable and add your operating systems on there, go ahead and watch that video on screen. But if you're ready to make a start, the first thing I'm going to do is plug in my memory sticks. I'm going to plug that in, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn my computer off. Mine is on at the moment, but I'm going to turn it off. Just press and hold the power button for like 5 or 10 seconds. Once that goes off, I'm going to press the power button again, and I need to enter my boot menu. The boot menu key for every laptop or every desktop is going to be slightly different based on the manufacturer. So I believe because I'm using a Dell, mine is either F10 or F12. I don't remember what it is, so I'm just going to press both of them. So what I need to do for me is I'm going to press the power button, press F10 and F12, just keep spamming F10 and F12 again, just because I don't remember which one is which. But for you, if you go ahead and find out what your boot menu key is, you simply press the power button and keep tapping that button. So I'm going to press my power button now, and I'm just going to press F10 and F12 because I don't remember which one is which. Keep pressing, keep pressing, keep pressing, keep pressing. There we go. I have my boot menu coming up on screen. Once I've got my boot menu up, I've got a few options here. The top option says Legacy Boot. This is going to be for older systems, and I also have UEFI Boot. For me, I'm going to be using UEFI just because I have a newer version. However, if you have Legacy, it's going to still work perfectly fine, so don't worry. If you have Legacy, you should see the name of your memory stick. If you have UEFI, you should also see the name of your memory stick. Anything else you see is stuff that we don't need to touch at the moment. So for me, I'm going to go where it says UEFI Kingston Data Traveler 3.0. I'm going to press enter on that. It's going to boot into a Ventoy screen, and this is the tool I told you guys about. Go watch the previous video. It's only like 2 or 3 minutes long. It shows you exactly how to install it. It shows you how to copy your operating systems to the memory stick so you can use any operating system you want. For this video, I'm going to show you guys how to install Linux Mint 22.2. So I'm going to use my arrow keys on my keyboard, and I'm simply going to press enter with it highlighted, and that's going to start the process. It's going to ask if I want to boot in normal mode. I'm going to choose that one. We have a few options here, so let me quickly go over them. So we have Start Mint, which is a normal mode. We have Start Mint in compatibility mode. We have OEM install for manufacturer. So it doesn't really matter which one you choose from those top 3, it will still work, and you can always reboot and fix the settings if you need to. We have a boot from next volume. We have UEFI firmware settings. We have memory test. I think for most people, what you need to go to is just the first one. Test the first one. If it doesn't work, you try the second one. The third one doesn't really mean much. It just probably gives you a few more options to like name your system and so on. So I'm going to press that first one. That's the Linux Mint logo there. So that tells me everything is loaded so far. It could still crash, but so far so good. So those steps booted us straight into Linux Mint, and this is what it looks like. I think this is the best option, the best free option anyway, for people coming from Windows 10. Reason being, most things that you plug into this will simply just work because it's based on another operating system that has been around for like 20-30 years. It just works. It has a start menu as well. You have loads and loads and loads of apps pre-installed. You can get rid of what you don't need quite easily, but I do think the majority of apps on here are going to be useful to someone. So I would say go through the apps first, and you can always remove the stuff that you don't want. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to install this. So the only icon on my screen at the moment, it says install Linux Mint. I'm going to click on that, double click on it to open it. The circle is going to start spinning. My first option here is going to be English. I'm going to click on continue. So this is the setup wizard, and again, it's a very simple, easy to follow one. You don't have to log into any accounts like you would for Microsoft or Android or Chrome OS. You simply go through the steps, and that's it, you're done. So I'm going to go to continue. Next, I'm going to choose English UK. For me, obviously choose your language and your keyboard layout. I'm going to leave it as the default one. Let me go back on this for a second because this is something that could be quite useful. If you're not entirely sure what your keyboard layout is, because you might have a different keyboard based on the country you're in, what you could do is simply start typing in this box down here, and it will automatically detect the type of keyboard that you have. Now I need to install multimedia codecs. Click on that and click continue. What this is going to do is ensure that all the files that are normally associated with videos and images and audio, they work fine. So MP3s, WAV files, JPEGs, PNGs, MP4, AVI. So all those video formats that you might get from your phones, from voice recorders, everything should just work okay. For me here, I'm going to erase the entire disk. Now this is where I will tell you, if you haven't backed up everything on your PC, you must go back and back everything up. If you haven't done that, you're going to lose everything after this stage. You can install Linux Mint alongside whatever else you have installed. So most people are going to have Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, or even Windows 11. However, I have Ubuntu installed on here, but I'm going to erase disk. I prefer to do this because I prefer just a clean install. Normally, I find that when you install Windows and Linux, there's always an issue later on with Windows. So I prefer not to do it. So I'm going to click on erase this, click on continue. Now from the drop down, this is very reminiscent of what we did for Ubuntu as well. So I'm going to click on the drop down. From here, I have two drives. The first one is a 480 gigabyte SSD that's inside my PC. That second one is the memory stick that's plugged in at the moment. So I'm going to click on that first one. Then I'm going to click on where it says install now. Then I'm going to click on continue. I'm going to go leave it as London for me. So choose your region, of course. I'm going to click on continue. I'm going to enter a username. I'm going to enter a password as well. I'm going to choose to log in automatically. You don't need to do this. I wouldn't even recommend this for most people. If you share your PC with someone else or this is an office PC, you must require a password to log in. Otherwise, people can just log into your PC and get access to everything. You can encrypt your home folder just in case something happens, your files are secured. But because I won't be using this system for more than about a day or two, then I don't need to do that. I'm going to click on continue after that. The reason this seems so similar to Ubuntu is that this is actually based on Ubuntu. So what they do, they strip out the stuff that they don't want and simply install the stuff or keep the stuff that they do want. And the reason they do this is Ubuntu is a very popular operating system amongst like big companies, universities, schools, and so on. So they have a very good base of support, meaning you plug something into Ubuntu, it most likely will just work. Mint did something very similar. They simply took Ubuntu, ripped out the stuff they don't want, and kept the rest of it. As much as this is probably the best operating system to install for most people coming from Windows, because most things will just work. And I've mentioned before, you have a traditional start menu. You have loads of apps that are compatible with stuff that you'll be working on. The reason I don't like it, the look and feel of it is just not for me. However, it is very practical, but it's just not for me. I prefer something like Zorin OS or Elementary OS. They might not be as bleeding edge as this one is, but I just prefer those. I'll wait for this to finish, speed this up, and come back. Okay, so I had to unplug the memory stick once the system rebooted. Now I'm back in. It looks exactly what the tester one looked like earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this and I'm going to walk you guys through what I did for the other operating systems. So first and foremost, you have a start menu bottom left hand corner where you have the LM for Linux Mint. You can click on that to find all the programs that you want. Once you move your mouse over a category, it shows you everything inside that category. So if I go to accessories, you can see I have calculator, I've got this, document viewer. If I go to graphics, I've got these three things here. If I go to internet, I've got these things here as well. So again, move your mouse over the categories and it shows you what's. I kind of like that feature because it stops me from clicking. It will probably use more system resources because it does have to render everything straight away as soon as your mouse goes over it, but don't worry too much about that. The next thing I want to show you is right on the start menu as well. I'm going to go to where it says Software Center or Software Manager. And this is going to allow us to install updates, download softwares, anything that we think we need, we can get it from here. I think the first thing I'm going to want to show people is probably how to get Google Chrome and probably VLC Player. Those are like the two programs I install on every system I start up fresh because I can log into my Google account nicely, get all my bookmarks and my passwords and stuff across, and VLC Player just plays every single file I throw at it. So it's good for music, it's good for videos as well. It's just amazing. The first time we open this up, it will take a while because it's the very first time it's getting everything that it can possibly get. So what I'm going to do is, again, on the start menu here, I'm going to click on VLC here. It comes up straight away because it's a very popular piece of software. I'm going to click on it. Then I'm going to go to where it says install in the top right hand corner. It tells me what additional software is going to be installed. I'm just going to click on continue. I'm going to put my password in because I need to confirm when I do some. Okay, that's installed nicely. And again, keep in mind, I didn't have to log into any account to do any of this. Once the system rebooted and started up, I did this straight away. No login in necessary. I'm going to go back. I'm going to install a few more bits. Let me install Audacity as well. This is a audio recording piece of software, so you can record your vocals here. Good for podcasts, good for screen recorders and stuff like that. I'm going to click on install again. Additional software will be installed. Click on continue. This time I don't need my password because I did that relatively quick after doing the first one. Let me go back one more time and let me search. The search bar is in the top left hand corner for Chrome, Chrome. Press enter or it just searches by itself automatically. Google Chrome isn't in the repo here, but what we can get instead is Chromium. Chrome isn't actually in the center for this, so what I'm going to do is probably show you guys how to install it if you don't find it in the software center. So I'm going to go to Firefox. Firefox is a browser that comes pre-installed with the system, completely free as well. No need for you to log in. So I'm going to click on Firefox. It's going to come up like a typical web browser, I guess. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Google anyway. I'm going to go to google.com. Then I'm going to search for in here. So all I typed into my Google was Chrome and straight away came up with Google Chrome browser. I'm going to click on download now. And from here, there's a download. Let me click on agree here. Download Chrome as well. If you're using any Debian based operating system, which Linux Mint is, Ubuntu is, Zorin OS, and I believe Elementary OS as well. So all the ones I'm going to be showing, you're going to want to look for the files that say DEB. So that's how you install stuff if you cannot find it in in the software center. So what I'm going to do is click on that first one that says 64-bit DEB file. I'm going to click accept and install. That downloaded a file there, which is completed. I'm going to click on it straight away. That opens up this tiny window here, and that's going to allow me to install that piece of software on my PC without it being in the software center. So it gives me some details here. I'm going to click on install package. Probably going to ask a password. Yep, here we go. Press password. The installation was successful. I'm going to close this. Now to search for it, I'm going to go back to my start menu, which is the bottom left hand corner where it says LM. Click on that. I'm going to go over to where it says internet, and that should give me Google Chrome. Perfect. There we go. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to ask for a password. You don't have to do this, but what this does is it links a password to your Google Chrome browser or to any app that you install. And what will happen is when you open that app, you will have to enter the password to be able to continue using it. Otherwise, it just won't work. At the very first ask, which is what this is, if I just click continue, then continue again, and there's no password. So from now on, it won't ask for a password. It would just take me straight in. So that's how we install Google Chrome that's not in the software center. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close the browser as well. And close this down, close everything down. Whilst I was installing Google Chrome, this popped up, and this is the update manager. This is going to be a way for you to simply update the system and update any apps that you might have. When this does pop up, I recommend people install all the updates necessary just to keep the system running nice, smooth, and protected. I'm going to click on OK. It's doing this thing and it's going to be checking for updates that I might be able to install. It's asking me if I want to switch to a local mirror. You're going to choose yes for this. What a local mirror is, it's essentially a website repository or a place locally to you, so close to you, where you can get your files quicker. So when downloading updates, it might come from somewhere in the US if you're in the UK, right? And that's going to take a long time to download, or a longer time to download, versus if you choose a local UK mirror, it's going to download it from a repository or a location in the UK, so it should in theory be quicker. It's not always going to be, but it should in theory be quicker. I'm going to click on apply or click yes, enter my password again. So there we go. The main one is Zara, which is in the US, but my base is going to be here in the UK. I'm going to close this. I'm going to click on apply the update. Here we have loads and loads and loads of things to install. So what I would suggest you do is click on select all, and then go to install updates. But before I do that, because this popped up, you might not know where this is. You don't have to worry. The system will check for updates automatically, and it will pop up at some point. If it doesn't pop up for whatever reason, or you close it by accident, you simply go to start. So again, the LM at the bottom left hand side of the screen, you simply type in UPDATE update. You're going to click on that green one that says update manager. It's going to pop up again, and this is how you get to your update manager to install whatever you want. And again, click on select all, then you can click on install updates. I'm not going to do it for this because it might take me a while and I want to get through this as quickly as I can. It's 875 megabyte update. The next thing you might want to look at is the file manager. How do you actually get to your file? So I'm going to plug that memory stick back in that had all the operating systems on there. I'm going to plug it back in. That popped up on screen straight away, and this is what the file manager looks like. So I've got my 4 operating systems here, and I have a folder here as well. I can also go ahead and create a folder and a document here, just like you would on a Windows PC. You right click on a blank white space, you can create new folder, create new document, you can do whatever you want. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to close this. I'm going to open it again by going to the bottom of my screen and click on where it says files. If it's not down there because you removed it by accident, what you can do is go back to your start menu. You can simply type in FILE, and that's it. In most cases, it will just, actually it should always be on the left hand side here. So once you go to start, so once you press the start button, you go to this folder looking thing here. It says files. I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to go to my downloads folder. Obviously I don't have anything downloaded except for that Google Chrome thing, so that's in my downloads folder. So just like you would on Windows, you have home, desktop, documents, music, pictures, videos, downloads. Next, I'm going to show you guys how to get to your network attached storage, or how to find it and attach it to your system. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to network, and as you can see, nothing shows up here. What you have to do is you click on the address bar at the top. So where you see network, that will change based on the folder you're in. So if I go back to my home folder, I have King Boss instead. If I go to desktop, I've got desktop here. If I go to documents, I've got documents here. Music, I've got music here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click where it says music. It's going to come up with this text box, and what I'm going to type in is SMB. If you have an SMB share, this is how you would do it. If you have an NFS share, you would simply change it to NFS instead. SMB : / 192.168.0.160, and for me / again, and the name of my network, my NAS is NASberry2. I'm going to press enter, and yep, that comes up straight away. Perfect. Authentication required. I don't need to log into this, so I'm just going to leave mine as anonymous and click connect. And from here, I should have all my network files. I'm going to test this quickly. I'm going to double click on this Runs Tech Hub logo here. See if it comes up. Yep, comes up perfectly okay. I'm going to also right click on this and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to right click on my desktop as well. And I'm going to choose paste. Yep, that paste on my desktop. I'm going to double click on my desktop to open it. Yep, that works perfectly fine. So that's how you would connect a NAS. At the bottom right hand corner of your screen, you have all these icons here. The first one moving from the right hand side is going to be the clock and the calendar. So you can go ahead and add stuff in here as well if you needed to. The next one is going to be sound. So these are all independent, which I really do like. I wish more distributions would do this because sometimes they have everything bundled up like they have in Windows. You click on the area, the entire thing comes up and then you choose. I prefer when it's individualized. So this is my clock and my calendar. This is my audio. This is for my network. At the moment, I'm using a wired connection. So what I'm going to do is turn off my wireless connection. Click on that one to turn it off. Then from there we have the drives connected. So if I click on that one, it's going to show me my Ventoy memory stick, which I can eject. Then I can unplug that memory stick now and it won't show up anymore. And it's still going to show me my network drive as well. After that, we have my Bluetooth icon. I'm going to click on that. I don't need Bluetooth on at the moment, so I'm going to turn that off. And from there, I have my update manager and that's it. The last thing I'm going to show is how to use the completely free alternative to Microsoft Office. And I believe on Linux Mint it's called LibreOffice. That's the one that they use. So if you go to your start menu, you click on the LM in the bottom left hand corner of your screen, go to start menu, you click on where it says Office. Actually, just move your mouse over Office and it comes up with all these programs here. So this is the free alternative to Microsoft Office. Completely free. You don't have to pay for anything. It works perfectly fine. And in most cases does exactly the same thing. Most people would need Word, which is Writer, maybe Impress, which would be PowerPoint, and Calc, which would be obviously Excel. So I'm going to click on where it says Calc. I'm going to click on OK. I don't need the tips. See, it looks very similar to what Microsoft Office looks like. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to put a few numbers here. So 10, 20, and 30. Then I'm going to do a sum over here equals sum, open bracket, highlight all of these, press enter. So that was simply to show you that the formulas do work. So whatever you could do in Excel, you can do in here. I've never tested any macros in this, but hopefully they should work. Close that. I'm going to do a Word document as well. So go back to Office, click on LibreOffice Writer. And as you can see, again, this looks very similar to what Microsoft Word looks like. So I'm going to put this is a test. Perfect. I'm going to zoom in as well. I'm going to save this one. So I didn't save the previous Excel file. I'm going to close this. I'm going to try to close it. It's going to ask me if I want to save it. I'm going to choose save. I'm going to save it to my documents folder. Perfect. I'm going to put the name as test file. Now be careful. In the bottom right hand corner, we have something called ODF. That's Open Document Format. This Microsoft uses their own formats, but don't worry, you can still save this as a Word document and you can also open Word documents, no problem. All you have to do is where that arrow is, you click on the arrow and you simply scroll down and find the one that you want. So I'm going to choose Word 2010 to 365 document DOCX. I'm going to click on that and I'm going to click save. This is just asking if you want to continue being asked if you want to save it as ODF or save it as Microsoft document format. I'm going to choose use Word 2010 format. Click on that one, saves it. If I go back to my file manager, then I go to, what did I save it? Documents. And that's the file there, DOCX. So it's exactly the same as a Word document. And you can also open Word documents in here perfectly fine, no problem. If you need to export as a PDF, it's going to be more or less the same process. You go to file, you go to export as, and you can choose PDF from the drop down menu. And that's it. There is a lot of stuff in Mint. I'm not going to show you every single thing. What I would suggest you do is move your mouse over each of the things that you're interested in. So if you're interested in graphic stuff, move your mouse over it and try and click on it and see what happens. It's very hard to break these systems unless you use a terminal. So don't worry, you most likely will never have to use a terminal in any of these things. The terminal is that programming looking thing that you see in movies where people pretend to be hacking. This is what it is. It's just another way to interact with the system. You don't need to do this. So I'm going to close this. So the final thing to do is to show you how to shut down. And again, you go back to your start menu, bottom left hand corner where you see LM. Then you click on the power icon here. So you can do the logout icon, you can do the lock screen icon, or you can do the power icon. Because I want to shut down, I'm going to do the power icon. Click on the power icon. You have cancel, suspend, restart, and shut down. I'm going to go to shutdown, and that's how it's done. Thanks for watching. Hopefully that was useful to someone. Stay tuned. More stuff is incoming.